Hi, Coach Burrows with you, traveling the coach's basketball road. History of high school basketball rules and transformation. The Naismith Hall of Fame cites February 24, 1893 in Chicago as the date of the first high school basketball game. That's only 14 months after the game was created. Morgan Park Academy played against the Chicago West Side YMCA team. Morgan Park Academy won the game 11-8. In 1900, the first head-to-head, two public high schools in Chicago. And then every school wants their own team. The game detonates on high school level. By 1920, most every high school in big cities or in small towns like fictional Hickory and Hoosiers has a team firmly embedded, associated with the image of its town or its big city. The game was launched into black schools and communities by the YMCAs, especially in urban centers. Teams thrived there. But this early era meant limited team schedules due to social boundaries. That entire story I've already done. It's in episode 7. Girls' high school teams were prevalent too. This picture, 1908, comes from California. The girls' hoop and women's basketball story, it's its own podcast. Actually, it was 2 parts. It's episode 4 and episode 5. The boys' high school tournaments for a state title began in 1908 in Kansas and Illinois. Then in 1911, Indiana. The Martinsville High School Indiana basketball team becomes a regular in the finals during the 1920s, winning it all in 1924. Then its star player, John Wooden, leads Martinsville to tournament championship games for 3 consecutive years. Lost by 7 in 1926, won the state title by 3 over Muncie in 1927. So in 1928, he's a senior looking to graduate with 2 titles in a row. The opponent, again, is Muncie. Coach Wooden writes in his book, They Call Me Coach, which should be required reading for any basketball coach, rec ball on up. It's on page 3839. I'm going to read it directly. I think all hoop enthusiasts will enjoy this. It's only 4 paragraphs. Usually, you would think that the championship would be the important memory of my high school career. But actually, it's the defeat in the championship during my senior year that takes the honor. Again, we're playing Muncie Central. With moments to go, we were ahead 12-11. A Muncie player turned his ankle and called timeout. Since they had used their allowed 3 timeouts, it was a technical foul. When you shot the technical, the ball went back to the center jump if you made it. I was captain and elected to refuse the shot, thereby keeping the ball. My head coach, Coach Curtis, leaped off the bench yelling, "No, we'll shoot it, we'll shoot it." I argued because under the rules then, we had the ball, and by keeping it, I knew that Muncie would not get it back before time ran out. I could keep it on the dribble alone, and we'd win 12-11 for back-to-back championships. But, of course, my head coach prevailed. I shot and missed. The ball went back to the center jump because that was the rule of technicals in those days. In those days, the center could also tip it to himself. The Muncie center tipped the ball behind himself, grabbed it, and in a wild, sweeping, underhand motion, arched the ball toward the basket. To this day, it is the highest arced shot I've ever seen. It seemed to go into the rafters and came straight down the middle of the basket, hardly fluttering the net. I called timeout as the ball came through the basket. Knowing Muncie would look for me to shoot, Coach Curtis set up a play with me as the decoy. The center tipped to me. A forward screened for the center, who got wide open. I faked a shot and passed to him underneath the basket, and he laid the ball up on the board. In doing so, he gave it a little English. It went around and around and around, and then out. A forward was right there, but he was so confident the ball was in that he was jumping up and down in jubilation and wasn't positioned to rebound. When he saw it spin out, all he could do was bat it back up. But it didn't go in. It seemed like a disastrous turn of events at the time, but by summer vacation, the hurt had worn off. Well, it had worn off a bit. They Call Me Coach is written in the late 1980s. I interviewed Coach Wooden, one of the thrills of my life, on camera in 1999 for The Big O, the Oscar Robertson video biography, which was published in 2001. In the interview, I asked him many questions. He said that Oscar was the first player he had ever seen who was ready for the NBA right out of high school. Then I asked him about his high school, and Coach Wooden said losing that high school state title his senior season was still painful. He was 89 years old. He died 10 years later. He had won at every level as player and as coach, was legendary, and instead of the wins overwhelming the psyche, he was pondering a heartbreaking loss in high school. Coach Wooden and his UCLA teams are renowned, but his legacy extends to his early influence on the value of high school basketball being part of the fabric of the town or the city. If he had stopped there, like most high school players do, most of us don't go beyond high school, Wooden was still a foundational figure in shaping high school basketball's importance to the nation through the network of small town teams to big city teams like Chicago. And this is during basketball's formative first 30 years. The high school level endures the rapid changes of the game. Even if it's for the good, it's still not easy to do something a new way. It's a work in progress on the court. The game was invented, 1891, 9-on-9. And prior to 1900s, games were played 9-on-9, 8-on-8, 7-on-7. Whatever amount of players were there, they split them up and put them out there on the court. They had temporary baskets with bottoms. They played in armories, church basements, or some kind of hall. School, meeting, town, lodge hall, dance hall. There were no basketball gyms yet. Most gyms look like this for gymnastics, rope climb, weights. But at the outset of the 20th century, the YMCA and high school basketball gyms get built quickly. Court dimensions are suggested by national committee, but school space and their budgets influence what can be built, still does. At the Springfield Y, the first basketball court was 60 feet long, 35 feet wide, much smaller than today. It does settle into a 5-on-5 game permanently, with all of this occurring about the same time as the state title tournaments begin between 1908 and 1911. It's a slow game. You heard in the Coach Wooden passage, after every basket, there's a jump ball. So during the 19th century, as it was being rolled out, after a make, the ball had to be fished out of the basket or iron hoop with bottom. At 10 feet, somebody had to climb a ladder, get the ball, then walk everybody back to half court, line up for the jump. Very tedious. Whoever came up with the ingenious open bottom net is lost in time, as is the exact year, but early 20th century, somewhere between 1904 and 1912. But that was like removing a stop sign or a red light from the road, allowing it to pick up speed. But that change of hands on a made basket, the inbound by the other team that had been scored on, that was the true game accelerator. 1913 it was done. It accelerated the speed of the game like no commercial break to be bored by. However, there was no mechanism to force high schools to change. This rule was not implemented by all the states until the 1930s. But the most freeing addition of all, the dribble. It's ironic that the epiphany that unlocked the 13 rules of his game marinating in Naismith's head was no running with the ball. It's his first thought, but rule number 3, a player cannot run with the ball. The player must throw it from the spot on which he catches it. I say ironic because it keeps a primary tool of the game, dribbling, undeveloped for years. Even the ball that Naismith asked Spalding to customize for the game in 1894 discouraged dribbling. This is it. Has laces, it's oblong like a football, gives an uneven bounce. But the last part of Rule 3, almost an afterthought, leaves flexibility for the dribble to be born. Allowance to be made for a man who catches the ball when running at a good speed. What I've found in searching for the dribble history is vague, like the open bottom net. There's this, some dribbling works its way in around 1900. There's no definition, just referee discretion apparently built around the allowance to be made line. Dribble or dribbling, not even a basketball word as the 20th century begins. It is in soccer, but not in basketball. Who called it dribbling first? Unknown. Initially, the dribble is limited to 1 or 2 dribbles, probably because referees are thinking that's all it should take, really, for a man to make a concentrated effort to slow down. It starts not as an offensive weapon, but as a survival maneuver to avoid a turnover. The clearest dribble advancement is in the 20-year period 1910 to 1930. The first basketballs appear that are round, without external laces. Now the ball has bounce, and players, female as you can see, and male, learn to use it as a weapon. Unlimited dribbling is fully allowed, and double dribble is understood. The dribble changed the game, no doubt. But so does the pivot foot. And I really cannot find out how the pivot foot entered. It's another vague account at best. Quote, it worked itself into the games. The basket at 10 feet high. I love that story. And in episode 2, I tell the story. It's still 10 feet. All the rules that were evolving, but Naismith got the 10 feet right from day one. But that's pure serendipity. I explain it this way from episode 2. To place the first baskets in basketball history, they had to go below the wood spindles of the rail and be nailed into the wood beam, or the basket would not be sturdy. As it turned out, that height to nail it into the wood beam below the rail was 10 feet. Dictated not by some mathematical equation or precise analytics, but by the luck of what the gallery permitted. Naismith later said if it had allowed 11 or 12 feet, that's where it would have been nailed. As much as I'm awed by Naismith's original 13 rules, the birth certificate of basketball, many key ingredients of the game are the fog of basketball, unplanned events, not in the blueprint, that are beneficial, the height of the rim, the open bottom net, dribbling. Coaches, how many times have we said, work on your handle to your team? There was no handle for the first 9 to 14 years of the game. When the pivot foot arrived, it's really a force of a deeper grasp of the game by those shaping it. Comes from players and coaches, national rule committees. Among those at the forefront of shaping a more competitive, entertaining game, YMCA and high schools. By 1900, there are between 1,000 to 2,000 high school teams. College teams, about 100. Towns of all sizes could afford the game, and by 1900, the high school basketball team is a community focal point, along with the football team, which started in the 1880s. Indiana, Illinois, Kansas, Iowa, Wisconsin, they had strong early participation. The rest of the states did follow quickly. By Coach Wooden's senior year in 1928, it had been established that a league or regional or state title is a lifetime memory. All of that emotion, joy, disappointment is part of the history of high school basketball, as was the learning curve to develop skills and fundamentals that guided and really still guide the generations of players here into this first quarter of the 21st century. And we're on the coach's road, where basketball coaches travel along with passionate hoop enthusiasts. Please subscribe. It's free for you, and somehow it helps me. Coach Burrows, over and out.